Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the video. So in today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to talking about fantasy basketball and talk about some of the fantasy waiver wire additions that you can look into for your team in order to help give your team a boost at this point in the season. So this is a good time to really pick up some valuable players on the waiver wire in fantasy basketball, because as we're approaching the trade deadline, a lot of people are going to move teams, and especially if you're looking at a team that is relying on one player for all of their points, stat production, rebounds, assists, etc. When they get shipped off to another team at the trade deadline, it creates a natural void for somebody to step up and fill the position stats for you, and it could be a good person to pick up on the fantasy waiver wire who's not highly owned, but somebody who could step up and really give you a lot of production down the stretch. Good example of this last year was Christian Wood with the Detroit Pistons. When they traded Andre Drummond, which is a player I'm going to talk about in a little bit, there was a natural void for rebounds and post play. Christian Wood was one of the backups on the bench. He stepped up and he had a really good stretch of games until the season shut down last year. So that's a good example of somebody that you can pick up on the waiver wire who, depending on how the rest of the season goes, more than likely that team is going to continue to rely on the young talent to see how far it will take them, evaluate what you got. So this is a good opportunity for you when somebody is talked about being traded or when somebody is injured, for example, to capitalize on it. So first we'll talk about some of the players that you can pick up from voids created by injuries. So the big injury that happened yesterday was Anthony Davis. He was driving against Jokic in the Nuggets game yesterday, and he had a non-contact Achilles injury. He had that Achilles bothering him a few weeks ago. It looked pretty bad when he got injured, but thankfully it doesn't look like it's going to be too serious for them. But this is going to be a good opportunity for you to take advantage of one of the other players on the roster that you might be able to pick up. So of guys that are under 50% owned, the one that I would recommend that you pick up from the Lakers to potentially pick up on Anthony Davis's value is Kyle Kuzma. Kuzma is a frustrating player sometimes. He's not very consistent, but he does have flashes of potential. And especially when he is in a position where he needs to be the number 2 option, he does very well with that. He seems to still struggle exactly how to fit in when he's the 3rd option, but when the team has been in a position where they're relying on him as the number 2 option, he has stepped up and he's played pretty well. So currently he is sitting at 39% owned. So he is more than likely out there on the waiver wires for you. He's averaging right now about 11 points a game, 6.1 rebounds, shooting 45%. He also has 0.6 blocks, 0.3 steals, 0.1 assists, and 1.73. So he's giving you a good variety of production in a lot of areas. I would not be surprised if all these numbers increase across the board with Anthony Davis being out. So he's a good guy to pick up if he's out there. I would recommend grabbing him if he's on waivers. Other guys to maybe take a flyer on are Talen Horton-Tucker, because he has shown a lot of potential. Maybe he gets more of an opportunity now, as well as Markieff Morris, if they're going to rely on him more as their stretch 4 or small ball center. But I would most likely go with Kuzma as the one that's going to pick up on the Lakers' voids for stats. Another key injury that's not really being talked about as much is the injury of Mitchell Robinson on the Knicks. He fractured his hand. He is going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. So this creates a perfect opportunity for you if he's out there to pick up Nerlens Noel. Then you're going to need a center, particularly a rim runner who is going to also provide rim protection. And Nerlens Noel has been known for his ability to do that in limited minutes. So we take a look at how Noel has been playing so far. He is currently 19% owned, so he is more available than Kuzma is. On the season, he's not putting up any crazy stats necessarily. I'm going to pull it up real quick. So he's averaging 3.8 points, 5.2 rebounds. He's also got 0.9 steals, 2.0 blocks over 18 minutes. So overall, Nerlens Noel is not necessarily giving you a lot other than rebounds and blocks, but this is a good opportunity with him now that he's got more minutes to step up and give you more stats across the board, because blocks is one of those stats that you often forget about, but it can be really beneficial to you. So you look at, in case in point from last night, he had 32 minutes last night. He had 10 points, 6 rebounds, 1 steal, and 2 blocks. And in the previous 2 games, he had 3 blocks before Robinson got injured. So as Robinson is going to have is going to be out, Noel is going to continue to have availability and opportunity to step up as the center, and I look to him to be somebody that is going to be somebody that you can rely upon for the next month and a half until Robinson comes back. Definitely a guy to pick up around now if you're at a hurt, especially if you're hurting, especially for centers. Now we talk about 2 other voids that need to be filled, and these are both players that were in the news today as their teams are going to be looking to trade them, so they're going to sit them out until they either find a trade partner or they get bought out. I think, and this is Blake Griffin on the Pistons and Andre Drummond on the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I think they're both going to get bought out. I don't really know what the market for them would be, especially since they both have very large contracts. But nonetheless, this is going to create opportunities for the Pistons and the Cavs to have guys step up. So if you already own Mason Plumlee, he is going to really have a lot of opportunity to step up as the center, but he is 75% owned, so more than likely he is not going to be available for you. But keep in mind if he is out there on the waiver wire. However, the players that I like to potentially step up for the Pistons are Josh Jackson. He's not a center forward like Blake Griffin, but he is going to have more of an opportunity to show what he can do for a points production standpoint. So Josh Jackson currently 31% rostered. He's averaging 13 points, 3.8 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.5 threes, shooting 43%. He's going to have more opportunity to step up. And then as a flyer, I wouldn't necessarily get him right now, but just keep an eye on his production, and it's Isaiah Stewart. He's a first-round pick, drafted to be a center and power forward for this team. He could have more opportunity to step up for the team to show what he can do. He's only 1.7% owned. I would keep a closer eye on his stats as Blake Griffin is going to be out of this lineup to see how many minutes he's going to get, but keep an eye on Isaiah Stewart. They may give him some run. He could be a Christian Wood type guy to step up and really give you a lot of stats, especially rebounding. He's a big guy, known for his rebounding in college when he was at Washington, so keep an eye out for him. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, so the natural void filler for them is going to be Jared Allen, who they just traded for, but Jared Allen is 90% owned, so more than likely he is not going to be available for you as somebody that you can pick up. But other guys to keep an eye out for the Cavaliers, especially at their center and forward positions, are going to be JaVale McGee. He is another buyout candidate as well, but if he stays on this team, he's going to have a lot of opportunity to provide rim protection and rebounding when Jared Allen needs to sit. And then somebody else to take a flyer on, and he has actually played pretty well, but he is currently 0% owned, is Lamar Stevens. Lamar Stevens, a young player. I believe he's a rookie. I can't quite remember exactly where he's from, but his line from the other day against Portland, he had 10 points, 6 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1 assist. And then the next game that he played, which was yesterday, he had 7 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. So it's nothing special, but if you're really hurting for a stream candidate, especially somebody who could give you blocks or rebounds, he's somebody to potentially look into as somebody that you can could step up. And then furthermore, if anything were to happen to Allen, or if JaVale McGee gets bought out, for example, this guy's going to have more of a role. So 0% owned, so I know he's out there. So just keep an eye on this guy because he could be somebody that could step up, really surprise a lot of people as the season goes on. Other guys that I want to talk about that have been producing well of lately or have opportunity that I would consider picking up. So first is going to be Carmelo Anthony. And this is not a under-the-radar name by any means. He's been playing pretty well the last few games, but he's only 40% owned. And he's currently 41.1% owned. But the last couple games for Carmelo Anthony, he has been averaging in the 20s for points. Let me take a look at his specific lines. So he had 15 points against Dallas last night, but the previous two games the previous 3 games he had 23, 24, and 23. Otherwise, he doesn't really give you a whole lot in terms of stats. He did have 3 blocks against the Magic a couple games ago. He gives you a few rebounds a game, but if you need points, this is a guy that is settled into a role as a second, third option for Portland, especially while CJ is out. Good option for you to pick up off the bench. Off waivers. Another guy who has also been producing very well, very under the radar, is Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson is on the OKC Thunder. He has been shooting very well of late, been their leading scorer in some of the past couple games, but he is also only 1.2% owned. But take a look at his numbers that he's been putting up. Against Milwaukee last night, he had 22 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal. The previous game against Denver, 20 points, 3, and 2 steals. So he's getting opportunity with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander currently sidelined. So if you're in a pinch for points, especially on a team that is really looking for opportunity from a lot of young guys, this is a good player to keep an eye on. Could be a steal as the season goes on. And then the last one I want to talk about in the last few minutes I have is Michael Carter-Williams for the Orlando Magic. And Orlando is really, they're really hurting right now. A lot of players across the board are getting injured for them. They had Jonathan Isaac got injured. Then Markelle Fultz got injured towards ACL, unfortunately. Aaron Gordon is now out. Cole Anthony is now out. So they're down to essentially one of their last point guards, and it's Michael Carter-Williams. He is another example of somebody who's been wildly inconsistent throughout his career, but he's going to have a lot of opportunity to give you some assists and points from the point guard position for this team moving forward. So keep an eye on him. Could be a good stream to pick up if you're really hurting for a point guard or for assists. So that's all I got in today's video. Let me know what you think of it, or if you're interested in more videos like these, and I'll keep making them. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys.